Close your eyes for just a moment. Take a slow, deep breath in, and let it out. Right now, you are about to hear something that has the power to change your life. Not someday, not eventually, starting today, starting right now, from the inside out. Welcome. I am so glad you are here. This is for the person who has tried everything on the outside and still feels stuck on the inside. It is for the person who wakes up every morning carrying the weight of a past they cannot escape. It is for anyone who has ever whispered to themselves, "There has to be more than this." There is, and science is now proving what ancient wisdom has always known. You are not a fixed being. Your brain is not set in stone. Your past does not have to be your future. Over the next few minutes, we are going to walk together through one of the most powerful ideas in modern neuroscience. That you have the ability, right now, to literally rewire your brain and heal your mind. Not metaphorically, biologically, neurologically, you can change. So settle in, and let us begin. Here is the first thing you need to understand. Most of us are not living our lives. We are reliving them. Think about this. When you wake up in the morning, before you have even fully opened your eyes, your brain is already running a program. It is scanning through your problems, your identity, your limitations, your worries. Within the first few minutes of consciousness, you have already mentally rehearsed who you are, what you cannot do, and what today is probably going to look like. And it looks a lot like yesterday. Neuroscientists have found that the average person thinks between 60,000 and 70,000 thoughts per day. And approximately 90% of those thoughts are the same ones they had the day before. Think about what that means. You are thinking the same thoughts, making the same choices, taking the same actions, and then wondering why your life does not change. This is not a character flaw. This is not weakness. This is simply how the brain works, unless you decide to work with it differently. The brain is a habit machine. Every time you repeat a thought, a feeling, or a behavior, the neural pathway connected to it gets stronger. Neurons that fire together, wire together. Your brain is literally sculpting itself around your most repeated mental patterns. Around your most repeated stories about who you are and what is possible for you. But here is the liberating truth. The same principle that wired those patterns in can rewire them. The brain that learned fear can learn safety. The brain that learned limitation can learn freedom. The brain that learned suffering can, with practice and intention, learn joy. This is called neuroplasticity, and it is your greatest superpower. Now I want to ask you something personal. Who would you be if you had no memory of your past? For most of us, our entire sense of identity is built from memory. We know who we are because of what happened to us. Our beliefs about love, about health, about what we deserve, were formed by experiences that happened, in many cases, decades ago. You may have been told as a child that you were not smart enough. And that single moment became a groove so deep that even today, you hesitate before speaking in a meeting. You play small in rooms where you deserve to take up space. You may have gone through a heartbreak so painful that your nervous system decided relationships are not safe. And now, years later, you find yourself pulling away from people before they can hurt you. Not because you want to, but because your body is protecting you from a wound that no longer exists. Here is what is happening on a biological level. Your emotions are not just feelings. They are chemical signals. When you live in a chronic state of stress or unworthiness, your body is bathing in stress chemistry day after day. Over time, your cells begin to expect this chemistry. They begin to crave it. And so you unconsciously seek out thoughts and situations that recreate those familiar emotional states, even when those states are painful, because to the nervous system, familiar feels safe. This is the habit of being yourself. And it is why change feels so hard. You are not lacking willpower. You are, on a neurochemical level, addicted to your current version of yourself. But just as you form this habit, you can form a new one. Between what happens to you and how you respond, there is a gap. Most of us never notice this gap. We live reactively. Someone says something and we feel hurt instantly. Something goes wrong and anxiety floods in immediately. But what if you could learn to live in that gap? Viktor Frankl, a psychiatrist who survived the Nazi concentration camps and went on to write one of the most powerful books of the 20th century, understood this deeply. He said, "Between stimulus and response there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom." Inside those camps, with everything taken from him, he discovered something extraordinary. They could control his body, but not his mind. He chose to imagine a different future. He held love in his thoughts for his wife even when he did not know if she was alive. He survived, and he rebuilt his life from nothing. Viktor Frankl's story is not just inspiring. It is evidence of what the human mind is capable of when it is trained and directed. Now here is one of the most extraordinary pieces of neuroscience you will ever hear. Your brain does not know the difference between a vividly imagined experience and a real one. Studies on mental rehearsal show that athletes who visualize their performance activate the same neural pathways as those who physically practice. Pianists who mentally rehearse a piece show similar neurological development to those who practice on a real keyboard. Your nervous system responds to what you imagine, not just to what physically happens. This means that when you sit quietly and vividly imagine a new version of yourself, a confident version, a healthy version, a free version, you are laying down new neural pathways. You are installing new hardware in your brain. Consider Morris Goodman. In 1981, Morris was in a plane crash that shattered his spinal cord, crushed his larynx, and collapsed both lungs. Doctors told him he would never function again. He could not move, he could not speak, he could not even breathe on his own. But Morris could think, and he chose, every single day, to think only about walking out of that hospital. While his body lay motionless, his mind was rehearsing. Walking, breathing, living. He held nothing but the vision of his full recovery. Within months, to the absolute astonishment of his medical team, Morris Goodman walked out of that hospital on his own 2 feet. He became known as the Miracle Man. And his story is not supernatural. It is the mind-body connection operating at its most powerful level. So let me ask you this. What are you mentally rehearsing for yourself every day? Now let us go even deeper. Thoughts alone are not enough to create real change. To truly rewire your brain, you must combine thought with emotion. Emotion is what makes an experience real to the brain. Think about a moment of intense joy in your life. You can still feel it, right? Because emotion encoded it into long-term memory. Emotion is the body's signal that says, "This matters, keep this." The same is true for trauma. The reason old wounds stay alive in the nervous system is because they were emotionally intense. Emotion kept the experience alive. So to plant a new program in the subconscious mind, you need to think new thoughts and feel the emotions of your desired reality as if it is already happening. This is not pretending. This is not wishful thinking. This is neurological reprogramming. When you sit quietly and genuinely feel gratitude for a life you have not yet fully lived, your brain begins to wire itself around that emotional state. Your body produces the chemistry of that new life. Your behavior begins to shift. Your decisions change. And slowly, you begin moving in the direction of the version of yourself you have been practicing. Anita Moorjani lived this truth in a remarkable way. After years of living in constant fear, fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of not being enough, she was diagnosed with stage 4 lymphoma. By 2006, her organs were shutting down. She slipped into a coma. During that coma, Anita reports experiencing a state of profound clarity in which she felt, for the very first time, that she was completely worthy, completely loved, exactly as she was. She saw clearly that her illness had roots in years of self-abandonment and fear. She made a choice to come back. Within days of regaining consciousness, her cancer had shrunk dramatically. Within 5 weeks, she was cancer-free. Her case is documented in medical literature and has been reviewed by oncologists who have no conventional explanation for it. Anita herself says it simply. Her healing did not come from fighting the cancer. It came from finally loving herself. The body is always listening. To every thought you think. To every story you tell yourself about who you are. And this brings us to meditation, the practical gateway to everything we have talked about. When you enter a meditative state and your brainwave activity shifts from the busy, analytical beta state down into alpha and theta, something remarkable happens. The critical, analytical mind relaxes. The gatekeeper of your subconscious lowers its guard. And in that open, receptive state, you can begin to plant new programs. Think of it this way. Your conscious mind is the gardener. Your subconscious is the soil. During ordinary waking life, the soil is hard. But in meditation, the soil becomes soft and ready to receive new seeds. Research from Harvard Medical School has shown that as little as 8 weeks of consistent meditation produces measurable changes in the brain's gray matter, in areas associated with emotional regulation, self-awareness, and learning. Long-term meditators show more development in the prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for decision-making, compassion, and emotional balance. You are literally growing a better brain. Here is a simple practice you can begin tomorrow morning. Before you look at your phone, before the outside world rushes in, sit quietly for 10 minutes. Close your eyes, breathe slowly, and ask yourself one question. Who do I want to be today? Not what do I want to do. Who do I want to be? Bring that identity into your body. Feel it, let the emotion of it move through you, and let your brain begin to wire itself around that version of you. Do this consistently, every day, because you now understand how the brain works. I also want to be honest with you about something. Some of us have become addicted to our suffering, not because we want to suffer, but because familiar feelings have become part of our identity. Your anxiety, your self-doubt, your grief. On a neurochemical level, these have become chemical states that the brain depends on. And like any addiction, when the body does not get its fix, it sends signals to the mind. Thoughts arise that justify the old feelings. Of course I am anxious. Of course I cannot change. Look at my life. These thoughts feel like truth. But they are the body trying to return to the familiar. They are withdrawal symptoms. To break these emotional addictions, you must learn to observe the urge to return to old feelings and choose differently. This is one of the hardest things a human being can do. And it is also the most transformative. Gabrielle Bernstein spent years struggling with addiction, anxiety, and deep emptiness. Despite external success, she felt completely disconnected from herself. It was not until she committed to daily meditation and to deliberately choosing new thoughts and new emotional patterns that her life began to transform. Not just emotionally, but in every area of her life. She did not just recover. She rebuilt herself from the ground up and went on to guide millions of others through their own transformation. Her story, like all the others we have explored today, did not begin with a change in circumstances. It began with a change from within. Here is the final piece I want to leave you with. Cases of spontaneous healing, where people recover from diseases considered terminal, are far more common than most people realize. The Institute of Noetic Sciences has documented over 3,500 such cases across dozens of diseases. And many of these cases share something in common. A profound shift in consciousness. A change in belief. A deep letting go of the old self. A return to love. The field of psychoneuroimmunology, which studies how thoughts and emotions affect the immune system, has confirmed that mental states directly influence immune function, cellular repair, and even gene expression. You can turn certain genes on and off through your thoughts, your emotions, and your lifestyle. This is no longer a fringe idea. It is established science. You are not at the mercy of your genes. You are not at the mercy of your past. You are not at the mercy of your diagnosis. You are a conscious being with the extraordinary capacity to direct your own biology. So here is where I want to leave you today. Every morning, before the world gets in, spend 10 minutes in stillness and mentally rehearse your new self. Throughout the day, when you catch the old thoughts and the old feelings creeping back, pause, breathe, and ask yourself, is this who I want to be? Write a new story about yourself in present tense and read it daily. Regulate your nervous system through deep breathing, movement, and rest. And most importantly, practice elevated emotions like gratitude, love, and joy every single day, not because life is perfect, but because those emotions are the chemical environment in which your new brain is built. And here is the truth that ties all of this together. The future you want is not something you will one day arrive at. It is something you must begin to embody right now, before the evidence shows up. Feel whole before you are healed. Feel abundant before the money arrives. Feel at peace before everything is resolved. Because when the feeling precedes the reality, you have broken the loop. You are no longer waiting for the world to change so you can feel good. You are choosing to feel good, and the world is beginning to catch up. That is the miracle available to every single human being alive right now. Not through luck or special circumstances, but through the power of a conscious mind that chooses, again and again, to grow. You have that power. You have always had it. And I hope today, you feel just a little more ready to use it. Thank you so much for listening. If this moved something in you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And remember, the greatest work you will ever do is the work of becoming who you truly are.